Well, the weather forecast today called for sunny and warm. I don't know if you can see what we've got, but it's anything but. That's the way it goes here. If you're from the United States and here on Camino, one of the things the way will eventually teach you is what it's like to be a minority. And this is something my wife Dana and I talk a lot about. Everyone ought to know what it's like to be a minority. We've experienced that a lot with travel in Latin America. I know what it's like to be a minority in a restaurant or a hotel. But I experienced that again yesterday, and it was kind of a subconscious thing. It bothered me and I didn't even know it. Last half of my day was wet, cold, windy, and I was grumpy anyway, tired, and stayed at a pretty decent albergue, but I was the only guy from the United States there, which doesn't bother me at all. I've had a lot of great experiences with cultures here already. But the two groups were mostly Korean and German, and inevitably, as the night progressed, they kind of huddled up in their groups and segregated that way, and I was kind of left out in the cold. And it wasn't anything they were doing intentionally to exclude me or to be mean to me. They were just surrounding themselves with people who were just like them. And I didn't even really know that it was bothering me, but I knew I was grumpy, and it just added to my grumpiness. And until I got out here on the trail this morning and started thinking about it, I realized I was a minority last night, and it bothered me. It made me feel bad. So the moral of that, I think, is, especially for us in the United States, is that the next time you're in a doctor's office or the Social Security office or on the street and you see someone whose skin color is different, or whose eyes look different, or they obviously don't speak your language, it might not be a bad idea to go over and give them a smile and see what you can do to help. It doesn't matter if you don't speak the language. You can figure out a way to help. I've spoken in sign language plenty of times. I remember one incident just in the last year. Dana and I had been traveling all night and all day, and we were in the Memphis airport, and our baggage had gotten lost, and we were down at the baggage claim, and there was another lady whose bags were obviously lost, and come to find out she was from Venezuela, and she was carrying a child, and her whole purpose for the trip was to get that child to St. Jude. That child was sick. And even the driver that St. Jude had sent was not being very nice to her. He was frustrated that she couldn't speak the language. He couldn't understand what was going on, that her bags were lost. And so, as tired as we were, I was determined that that lady was not going to go to St. Jude without the assurance that her bags were going to get to her and her child was going to be okay. And it took us an hour and a half maybe to work through all that. It was a Saturday night, and the airline, you couldn't even get anyone from the airline to help the lady, but eventually, we figured it out because the lady needed help. And I often wonder today what became of that child. I hope he's okay, but everyone ought to learn what it's like to be a minority. Sometimes it's not so fun, and we need to all remember that.